friends from Israel, from the center of the world, the heart of the world. Today we're learning from the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. We have already learned a lot. The last time we learned was about, let me see, we did chapter 62, about laws concerning business and commerce. And the main thing we learned is that we cannot mislead another. We cannot present things as if they are better, and we cannot sell something of which we know that it is broke or it will break very soon. We cannot deceive others when we do business, when we have a shop. We must be honest with the ones that are buying from us. We must be honest with what we are selling. We talked about that we cannot mix good fruits with bad fruits so that you can sell the buyer doesn't know, but you put some bad fruits in the 2 kilo of bananas, you put 2 bad bananas, and he will pay for them like they're all good bananas, and when he comes home he finds out 2 are bad bananas, and he doesn't know you did it on purpose, but anyhow, it's not allowed to. We cannot deceive another person. Doing business is not about what the other knows or not knows. For example, I know I put those 2 bananas, rotten bananas, within the 2 kilos of bananas, but I don't tell the buyer. And as long as the buyer doesn't know it is on purpose, it would be okay. But that's not okay. That's false. It's not about good or not good. It's about true or false. So even if the buyer comes home and he doesn't think you did it on purpose, it doesn't matter because you did it on purpose. And Hashemayim, they recorded what you did. And what did you do? You deceived the other person. You made money in a not honest way. So it doesn't matter if the other person knows or thinks we are honest or not honest. It matters what is considered honest by Hashem and by Torah. So maybe all your life, all the people think you are a good man, and maybe all your life you have deceived them just a little, but they don't know. And they feel good about it. They don't know. They think you're the best. But Hashem knows that's not true. He knows that you all those years deceived the people selling your fruits, in this case, in this example, your bananas. And you always gave them 1 or 2 extra, not extra, you gave them in the kilos 1 or 2 rotten bananas in order that you don't have a loss, and they will pay for it. It's very, very important that you understand. Now I'll explain it again. Deceiving another person without him or her knowing it is still deceiving the other person, is still being not honest. So it doesn't matter if the other knows or not knows you're not honest. It matters what God knows. And He knows the truth. And the truth is, if you do such thing, you're not honest. So we talked about that you cannot have 2 different weights in your bag. Now we have scales, and normally the scales are okay, but we cannot put in the old scales, you put here a kilo of sugar, and on the other side you put a weight of a kilo, and then he knew you gave him a kilo of sugar. But if they wanted to deceive you, they made one of 900 grams, but they put in letters 1 kilo. You think the weight is a kilo, and you get a kilo of sugar. But in reality, you only got 900 grams of sugar. But you don't know, but you think it's a kilo. But still, it's not honest. You're deceiving the other person, and we're not allowed to. Uh, what you can do, for example, with the bananas, is telling the people that you have A choice bananas and that you have B choice bananas, and that the A choice bananas cost, uh, I don't know, 70 rupees, $70, 70 euros a kilo, and the B choice only 50. Then you give people the choice. If they buy the A choice, they get only good bananas. If they buy the B choice, there may be one or two bad bananas within the 2 kilos or the kilo you're buying. Then you're honest. People know, you tell them, they decide for themselves. That's the risk they take. Uh, well, we talked about a lot of other things, but uh, you can learn it yourself again if you have the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch at your home at chapter 62, or otherwise you can go to the website Sefaria, or you can read there also the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch and so forth. We have the obligation to keep our words. If we say we will do something, then we must do something. Actually, Hashem looks in our hearts. Even if you did not say to somebody you would do something, but you thought to yourself, I will do this and this for him, and you don't do it, then Hashem is your witness that you were intending to help someone, but you didn't. So you broke your word, well, you didn't spoke it, so you broke your thought. But for Hashem, it counts equally. Uh, we must be honest in selling our house. We've talked about it also. And we have to be honest. We cannot use buyers, different uh, uh, aspirant buyers to uh, putting the price up. We have to be open about it if there are others. And you have to look. You have to give preference. If you can sell something to someone you know, your neighbor, your family member, or the one that is from your village, you should sell your house first to him before selling it to someone else. It's about the moral obligation we have towards one another. Chapter 63 is the prohibition of deceiving others with words and misleading others. So we're continuing in the same kind of uh, uh, injustice, false words, false speaking, false thinking, false acting, not being honest. So just as it is forbidden to deceive a person by dishonest buying and selling, as what we talked about before, it is also forbidden to deceive a person with words, as it says in the Torah, and you shall not deceive one another, but you shall fear Hashem Elokeinu, your God. This is about words. We have to be honest with our words in everything we do. We have to be careful with our words. We have to consider that if we, with our words, hurt somebody, especially if we hurt a widow or an orphan, and when they or a poor person, when they cry out to Hashem about the injustice that is done to them by your words, He will certainly hear them, listen to them, and help them. So it's dangerous for us, because Hashem can take measurements against us if we are dishonest people, or if we, with our words, hurt other people's feelings. And we have to know it's very easy to hurt a widow. She's vulnerable. To hurt an orphan that lost his parents is vulnerable, or even your own wife or a woman who is very sensitive. They only need a few words to be hurt. I'm not talking about hurt from your eyes, but hurt to have to get a painful, negative, emotional feeling. So, if another example, if your neighbor is a Baal Teshuvah, he, on one point in his life, let's say 1 year ago, he realized that the life he was living without giving responsibility to Hashem and without recognizing Torah, that he was wrong, and he wanted to turn back to Hashem and take up the mitzvot and to become religious again. He is about teshuvah. We are not allowed to, in whatever situation, remember him to his past. So, even if it's just for the sake of a chit chat. Years ago when you were not religious, you did such and such. No, you're remembering the other to something that he wants and want to be in the past. He changed. So we're not allowed to talk about before he changed. We're just allowed to talk about after he changed, the life he is living now. Why should we hurt somebody by things he himself already knows, herself already knows, his past, her past? We are not allowed to do that, to remember somebody else to his past. If someone has a nickname can be, how do you say it? It can be onschuldig. Can be innocent, or somebody has blue eyes and you call him blue eye, or somebody has green eyes and you call him, hey, green eye, come here. Or his last name sounds like sounds funny and you put another word in it. I'm not good in nicknaming, but the other person is maybe used to that nickname. Or maybe let's say somebody is bald, and we always call him, hey, bald guy, come here. In a funny way, we don't want to hurt him. But still, it can happen that he feels hurt, because he doesn't want to be remembered as the bald one or as the fat one. We can think that is a sweet name, that is a nice name to refer to someone, a nice nickname. But in effect, you're hurting the other. And Hashem is seeing that you are, for the sake of a joke, or you want to be nice, you call him, hey, bald guy, or hey, fat guy, or something else. It's not okay. We should not do it. Our words can be like swords. They can pierce into the deepest of our inner being. In Proverbs it says the sword can make a distinction between the heart and the soul. It can divide the heart from the soul. So that's to explain that words can be so sharp and painful that they penetrate a human being to his innermost being, and we should not do that. We're not allowed to do it. So it's forbidden to mislead anyone, to deceive. We are also not allowed to deceive a non-Jew. We're not allowed to deceive Jews, but also not a non-Jew. We have to know that if we are living if we are living in Israel in a community that's religious, it's very easy to help each other and to whenever needed. But if you live in a community where there are no Jews and you're the only one, you can choose to isolate yourself, and sort of you're isolated because you're making different choices, but you cannot isolate yourself from what is happening around you. And if there is a need, you should help. And if somebody asks for your help and you'll say you cannot because you have other important things to do, but it's not true, then you're misleading the person, even if it's a not Jew. We have to be honest and sincere towards Hashem. We have to be honest and sincere to our fellow Jews, but we also have to be honest and sincere to the people around us. And always within the boundaries of Torah, what we learn from Torah. Of course, there are always examples which are more difficult to distinguish what to do and what not to do, but we can think about those difficult situations beforehand, so then we know what we should do. We should not invite anyone for a meal when you know that he will not accept. Why not? Well, it sounds that you are being nice, inviting someone, but you already know that he will not do it. He will decline your offer. So why did you do it? Why did you invite him? Were you honest, and were you really hoping that he would accept it today? That there was something special, and you felt that the moment was very good to ask, and that he or she should accept your invitation to come over and eat with you guys? Or if you know that he will always say no, or she will always say no for her or his reasons, and you're still asking, then you have to think for yourself, why did I ask? To get honor? To tell to other people that I invited somebody and that he or she didn't come? Why did you do it? No. If you know that the other person would not accept your invitation, don't invite him. It's that simple. Yes. The prohibition of dealing in forbidden objects. Any article of food that you are forbidden to eat and the article is used exclusively as food, even though you're allowed to make use of it, you may not offer it for sale or use it as a security for a loan. If it's forbidden for us, we cannot assume that we can use it to sell to somebody else or to give to somebody else. It's a difficult one. You can do with business things that are not used for food, but if it's for food, if it falls under the under the legal responsibility of the kashrut, we cannot automatically something that we are forbidden to eat give to somebody, to our neighbor. It's more difficult, and we have to think about and learn about when are we allowed to give something away and when are we allowed not to give something away or to sell. Mm, if by chance you happen to acquire a forbidden thing, for example, while fishing, you catch a ritual unclean fish, or you find an animal that died by a natural death or it has been killed before you found it, you are allowed to sell it, but you're not allowed to eat it. Because why? Because it was not your intention to catch that unclean fish or to find the animal that was treifa. It was not your intention, but you did. So now you're allowed to sell it or to give it away to somebody else that does consume those things, but only because it was not your intention that it would happen to you. You're allowed to collect unclean things as payment for a debt, but you must sell them at once. So if you get something of value and you know it's unclean, but you are capable of selling it right away to somebody else, a non-Jew, you can do it. But only because when you sell it, you get the money for it, and the money covers the expenses you had. But you cannot receive some kind of substitute as a payment which is unclean. For example, somebody has a debt with you because you are at a shop and he bought something, he didn't have money, and now he wants to give you his pig as a payment. Well, we're not allowed to eat pig, and what should we do with a pig? But and we know that if you receive the pig as a payment, but you know already someone to who you can sell it so that you will have the money which the first owner of the pig was in debt with you, then you can do this transaction because you're not taking the pig for yourself, you're taking it to immediately sell it again to make a profit out of it so that it covers the costs. But that's sort of the only way you're allowed to receive unclean payments for something. We should not do it. We should stay far away from it. And if you, it's of course it's easy when you live in a community with only Jews, then it will not happen. Those things will not happen. But if you're living in a community where there are few Jews and a lot of other goyim, things happen, and we have to study the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch on every kind of transaction, what we should do and what we are not allowed to do. Okay, this is the end of part 1, and in the second part of this video, when we are learning in the second part of the video, we will speak about laws of interest. Shalom, this is part 2 of this video. We're learning from the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. And in the first part, we dealt about the last thing we dealt about is the prohibition of dealing in forbidden objects, and we talked about the prohibition of deceiving others with words and misleading others. And today we're going to talk about interest. It's a difficult chapter, so let's see what we can make of it. Let's read it together. If you have the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, let's read it together. The Torah writes, Kotef, when you lend money to my people, to the poor among you, do not press him for payment. Do not take interest payment from him. So if we, and then the Torah is first of all speaking within Am Israel. If you, to someone who is also part of Am Israel, will lend money to your fellow Jew, to a poor one or to another one, you cannot press him for payment. You must be patient with receiving back what you lend him, and you are not allowed to take interest from him. So if he borrows $10 from you, then he has to pay you back $10. You cannot ask $11 because you lend him $10. That's in a few lines what it's all about. But of course, there is some more to say about. So the Torah obligates us to lend money to somebody else. It's even so that you can give tzedakah when somebody poor. You don't have to give him a loan. But if you give tzedakah to somebody that is poor, he maybe feel embarrassed because he needs without you helping him, he would not have been able to buy food this week or this month for his family. So in order not to embarrass him with an amount of tzedakah, you could give him a loan and you say, I'll give you a loan and you pay me back when you are able to. And then it will be honorable more. It will be more honorable for the one that is poor, that needs the money, to get it in form of a loan, because he can uphold his dignity. He didn't receive tzedakah. He got a loan, and he will pay it back when he is capable of it. It's much more dignified. So there are a few outlines of this halacha, which we will talk about. It's the nature of men to desire and lust after money. And money can break relationships and can break people and families. So in order not to make money a weapon in the hands between ourselves and our fellow Jews, Hashem gives us the mitzvah, the obligation to lend to someone that needs it, not to press him for payment, and not to ask interest. It takes away the sharpness, the weapon side of money, the lust, the danger of money, and it brings in the chesed, which we need between each other. So one who failed to observe this prohibition and did collect interest for a loan that he give to somebody, he is obligated to return the interest. When you are being asked to pay interest, there are legal ways, and we are going to talk about it in another paddock, another chapter. There are legal ways how to, for example, if you buy a house and you're asking for a loan from the bank, and how do you pay back that loan without paying interest? And we have a construction for it in order that it fits within the Torah, but we're not there yet. So for now, if you collect interest, you have to pay it back. Even if the borrower, so you borrowed money from somebody, you agreed
on paying interest, or you agreed on, you borrowed 1,000 euros and you will pay him back every month 100 euros, and after 10 months you have paid him back, but you decide to pay him an extra month because for the favor he did you, you pay him another 100 euros or dollars, then you will have paid him 1,100. Then the one that borrowed you, that gave you the money, that gave the loan to you, has to give back the last 101. Because even if it's voluntary, we are not allowed to pay interest or to pay additional money for a loan. Okay. If he says, it's not because I want to do something back, but it's a gift. I want to give you the gift. As long as it is attached, the gift, to the loan, you cannot accept it. It's prohibited to prepay or to delay your returning of the money. Let's say you want a loan from somebody, but before you ask for the loan, you send him a gift. You don't say the gift is to make the other person feel good about you, so that he will give you easier the loan. But you don't tell him. You just send him the gift, and the day after, you ask him for a loan. The person in this situation will obviously connect those things. Well, he's such a good, nice guy. He sent me a gift yesterday. I will give him a loan. But we're not allowed to send such a gift, because actually what you're doing is you give the person that is going to be about to give you the loan, you give him already some kind of payment, even though he or she didn't know. We're not allowed to give a payment in such a way. See something on my screen here. Okay. Let's see, what can we also talk about? The lender must take care not to derive any benefit from the borrower without his permission, as long as his money is in the borrower's hand. The lender must take care not to derive any benefit from the borrower without his permission, as long as his money is in the borrower's hand. So, somebody borrows, I borrow $1,000 from somebody, and then that person, I'll have to pay him back in a certain amount of time, but then the person needs a favor, and he comes to me. I need my garden to be fixed and to mow the lawn, and etc. It's only a day work. Can you do it for me? And I will do it voluntarily without getting paid. But the one that gave me the loan of the €1,000 is not allowed to ask me such a favor, because I am in a weak position, because I got a loan from him. So I feel obligated to please him and to turn back the favor to him or her. And so I will clean his garden. But we're not allowed in such a way to derive benefit from a loan and from a person. You may not lend somebody a sa'ah of grain. With the stipulation that he repay a sa'ah of grain, even if they are both of the same species, because there is the possibility that in time the price of the grain will increase, and consequently he will be repaying greater value than what he borrowed. Rather, a money valuation should be set on the grain so that if the price of the grain increases, he will pay you only an amount of money at which the grain was originally valued. So if you say, I will loan you a bag of grain, let's say 10 kilos of grain, and you will pay me back 10 kilos of grain. But if he will pay you back in a year and the price of grain went up higher, then when he wants to give you back the kilo of grain, which was worth 10 or $100, now cost $110 to give you back the grain, it is as if you have paid interest. Rather, when you borrow a bag of grain, let's say 10 kilo, and it is worth $100, you immediately make the agreement. This is the grain. It's worth $100, and when you pay me back, you pay me back the $100, not more, not less. Or you pay me back in grain worth $100 at the time you pay back. So maybe then you will get less grain back, but it's worth the same. But the best construction is to, when you borrow a bag of grain from somebody, it's 10 kilos, you adjust the price together, you make an agreement on the price, and if it's €100, you will pay him back or her back in a year 100. If you lend money for a mortgage is when you buy a house, a building, or someone, and you don't have the money, so you go, for example, to a private person or to a bank to get the money to buy the house, the fields, the synagogue, or whatever. The lender receives the benefits from the mortgage, because there's you have to pay him back. The value goes up from what he's borrowing, lending you. So we must do it by deduction. That is, the lender must deduct a set of amounts per year from the loan, which is then considered the rental that the lender is paying. So if I borrow €1,000 to buy a piece of land, and I pay back every year €100, it cannot be that in the end I have to still, when I finished paying the loan back, I still have to pay another 5 months as a kind of interest. No, what you pay has to be deducted from the initial amount that you borrow. So if you pay him back 100, there's only 900 that you have to pay back. If you pay him 200, another 100 is 200, then there's only 800 left to pay back. But because, for example, we cannot ask interests, there's a construction of being both owner of the building, and because the building becomes more worth during time, the lender and the borrower derives benefit from it, because he has to pay back less than what the building is now worth. So there is a legal Torah construction for it, how to borrow the money and pay back the other one, and make it's like you become partners in buying the building, and both of you get something of the benefit of the if the building is more worth after 10 or 20 years, and that payment is allowed to give to the lender, which can be the bank, but making a fixed price with interest and leave it that way, just pay the interest. You don't put it in the contract. You pay interest. That's not allowed. Okay, object that has a set price may not be sold at a higher price because the seller is willing to wait for payment. One who has a promissory note against his friend. No, that's too complicated for now. It's prohibited to buy grain at a certain moment of time in advance. So you say, I want to buy the grain, the produce of your field that comes in 6 months, but I want to buy it today and I'll pay you 1,000 euros for it. And in 6 months' time, I will get the grain. That you're not allowed, because maybe in those 6 times, the price of the grain will double, and then you get your grain and you only pay half of what it's worth at the specific time of when it's harvested. But that is actually what all the business in Wall Street, in the monetary business in the world is happening, with obligations and with how do you call those things that they do on Wall Street? All of those, how they make money from money, and they sell and they buy, and they stock exchange, and all that business is not allowed if you are living according to Torah. It's not the right way to make money, making use or abuse of people's buying and selling and what a company is worth, and they have terms like short selling, and if the company you can even make money out if it out stock if you buy stock from a company, but you buy it and then you sell it again to somebody else, but you only pay what you bought a few days later when the price is even lower. So you sell it for 10, then you wait a few days and you buy it for 8, you win too. So you're like hoping up that the whatever you're doing is becoming less worth, so that you will make profit out of it. It's not an honest way of money making. It's not allowed in the Torah. We have to be open and clear. A loan is a loan, no interest, and there are certain rules we have to abide. See, just to close for today, it's permitted to increase the rental of a real estate. One rented the property to another, and he said to him before the renter took possession, if you pay me the rent in advance, you can have it for 10 guilders. But if you pay me monthly, you have to pay 12 guilders. But it does, if you agree on it, then that's okay. When a Gentile says to a Jew, borrow money of interest for me from a Jew with his collateral, or even if he does not give him collateral, but only a promissory note, and the lender depends solely on the Gentile's collateral or note, and the intermediary, the Jew, has no responsibility. He just passed on the note to the Jew. Do you want to loan money to the non-Jew? That's okay. But if the one that is passing on the note is a Jew and is somehow also making profit of it, then it's already a difficult case again. So we should not do it. But we are allowed to lend money to a non-Jew and to ask interest from it. We are not allowed to loan money from a non-Jew ourselves, because then we become sub-Jew we become like slaves to a non-Jew, and we're not allowed to do so. And if a Jew wants to lend to a non-Jew, and he is allowed to, but in between there is a Jew that makes the business happening, and he also makes money of it, then there is also, then you have the business between the non-Jew and the Jew, but also the business between the Jew and the Jew, because you're three. And the business between the Jew and the Jew on the conditions which you are making money out of the Gentile, of the Goy, asking interest, because we are allowed to ask interest to a Goy, then you're in the middle of interest which between a Jew and a Jew we're not allowed to, and there is two Jews making profit out of the situation. It's balagan. We cannot do it. It's not allowed to do it, and we have to follow very clearly the halacha on these things, to be honest. And all these things that we are learning, maybe it's too much for you to remember. Well, you just listen again to the video, or you take the Kitzur, Shulchan, Aruch, and you learn for yourself. But the most important thing of this is protection of the Jew against poverty, not abuse each other over money, not making money the boss over our lives, the king over our lives. Money is not the king over our lives. Hashem is king, and money is just a way of how we compensate what we buy and what we sell. And we have to stick together as Jews, and we have to grow stronger as Jews. And when we are following the halacha, certainly in monetary matters, we have to stay very close to what our sages, what our great rabbis has taught us and still are teaching us to this sefer. Well, this is it. This is it for today. Thank you for listening to, for learning together. Next time we will continue on laws of vows and oaths. Chapter 67. For now, good night, Shabbat Shalom. I hope you will learn something, and stay healthy in those difficult times of Corona. Be careful, put on your mask, and ask Hashem to protect you. Bye bye, Litraut.